Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hands-On CISO podcast. My name is Adi, and today we'll be talking to Sharon Cohen. Sharon has been in the security field for almost 3 decades and is currently the head of security at BetterHelp. With over a decade of experience as a CISO in many different industries, I'm really excited for this conversation. How are you today, Sharon?
I'm fantastic. Thank you. How are you, Adi?
I'm great. Wow, I have so many questions to ask you. We just chatted before we started recording, and we talked about the differences between cybersecurity now and the way it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. Can you tell me a bit about your experience?
Wow. Yeah, cybersecurity changed a lot. The early days, there was no really cybersecurity. It was part of the system group that used to really put all of the security, either patches or any kind of fixes, and it's a part of the what used to call the system administrator, the root access. This guy used to do that, and those days the biggest threat is coming from the outside world. Those days the outside world was not very much popular, right? The internet started booming in I think in 95, 96, 97, when you saw the start of the internet. It wasn't like today that the internet is accessible from every house, and people can access the internet either from the mobile device. It's very default that people have access to the web. Actually, access to the web is more critical than have power today. So that's what happened. So cybersecurity changed a lot. And during those time, it's been part of the system group, part of what's called corporate IT. They used to, defending all kinds of threats that used to come from the early days of the internet, like the internet email, what used to be the POP3. And it's become, just once a while you used to get a virus in your email, and the antivirus companies, which is one of them that I grew up on them. It's Symantec. Used to have the Norton antivirus, very popular until these days. Used to block them, used to stop the virus on your system, and usually the IT used to correct the system, clean the virus, and back to life. Life was normal. Today, or even 10 years later, from the late 90s, everything changed. And the biggest change that happened is that the cloud become very popular. When the compute cloud, become very popular, it's revolving a lot. So what happened, the platform, what we know, the local platform, changed completely. It became a cloud base. So it's not longer your data center that you can walk and be physically connected to your machine, or either if you're a startup or a small company or mid company or a computer room. Those days are gone completely since early 2000. Those days are gone, and these bring a different kind of threat. It's a different kind of risk that the CISO have to be stopping, and a whole new world of what we call bad players, what we call hackers. It's become very sophisticated. They become software developers. So right now it's even more, right? They're using all kind of sophisticated AI, and the software developers, it's become very difficult to stop them. And one of the things that company is start doing since 2015, 2016, is that the cyber security become part of the software developer team. They become part of engineering. And this is bring them two major wins. One of the major wins is the idea that if you want to stop a software developer, not to win, it's a stop. This is super important to say, because cybersecurity today, it's not 100%. It will never going to be 100%. Okay, it's never going to be 100% defense. It will be maybe 80, even 75. If you are getting to 80, you have a A+ security program. You're like the Pentagon, just to give you a little bit what's going on. Okay, the 75, it's a very good score. So why you need software developer? It's very easy. You need a software developer to stop software developer. If a person in your cybersecurity team is a software developer and doesn't understand the code, you will not be able today to stop the risk, the threat. It's very sophisticated. It's a very complex. Today, the malwares, not even malwares, the injections are very difficult to stop. Even a weakness that even you cannot even stop today. So back to the cybersecurity change. It's a change that happened usually. It happened in few years ago. It used to be the system person. Years later, the IT, and today we're more and more seeing that the cybersecurity team is part of the software developer team, or either contain software developer personnel.
Wow, that's such a like sounds like so different things to do. What was your journey from getting started in like the old world of security? What was your first job in security, and how did you progress over the years to where you are now?
Yeah, so I grew up in IT. I grew up as a system person. And as I mentioned before, the system, used to be part of the system portfolio, the system admin. We used to kind of 10%, 20% used to do security. Used to be very security patches, all kind of OS patches, things like that, or either the one layer after the OS so that you can patch some of the vulnerability that exists, right? During the time it's been changed. As I mentioned, the risk changed, right? The internet become popular, the cloud become popular. When the internet become popular, the internet email, the file transfer between people become popular, sending images, sending our good friends PDF, that brought risk. Those files used to be contain viruses, those files used to be contain all kind of very non-sophisticated program, but doing a little bit damage. If you guys remember the one of the famous one, I love you virus, right? One of the guys in the organization used to get a virus, I love you virus, send to the entire global distribution list an email if it's Adi that I love you everybody in the organization, right? Things like that. That usually it used to call P embarrassing, right? Not P1, P embarrassing, right? So that used to be the kind of the incident during those days, right? But that changed. It's become sophisticated. The cloud become popular. The platform disappeared. The underwater become the cloud. So that brought a different kind of thread that caused us to develop ourselves, to either software develop, to understand more what the company develop, what's the application do, right? Because most of the companies, as the cloud become popular, their application also changed. It used to be a package, a CD-ROM. Remember those days? You used to get a CD-ROM with the package, very nice package, Swifty, a new software, beautiful. Today it's different. Today everything, you get it on the web. It's on the second you download everything. You don't have to wait for everything, so it's a different kind of risk. So the app from a package become what we call today software as a service, SaaS. SaaS today, okay, we need to protect the SaaS. SaaS completely reading by programmers, by a code. For you as a cybersecurity personnel, for me as the CISO, I need to understand and have people to be able to understand the code, to be able to understand the vulnerability that exists of the code. And guess what? The SaaS brought agile. Agile developing, it's a very fast way to do changes in the application. When you do changes in application, meaning that your developer writing tons of lines of code. When you write tons of lines of code, guess what happens? Out of the bat, the code is vulnerable. So it's super critical for any organization that have a SaaS offering to have a cyber security team that have the ability to understand the code, have the ability and tools to stop a bad line of code. This is what cybersecurity today. They have to be part of the developing team, or either contain software developer. Some organizations are very enterprise. It's very difficult to merge between the dev team. Business mid-size to small, it's easier to do so. But as a CISO to CISO, I really recommend you to hire software developer.
Have you ever been a part of a company, of course, no names or anything, but a part of a company that had a serious security breach?
Great question, Adi. So I can tell you also about security breach. You can understand as well. The answer is yes, yes, and yes. So part of my journey, and even today, okay. So security breach will happen to most, if not all, of the companies that exist today. Why? Because as you remember, the 80-20 rules, the 75, there's still vulnerabilities today that we don't have answer today. They still have vulnerabilities because everything is very dynamic and change a lot. So there are always going to be vulnerabilities in the organization. Now, the question is how you deal with those vulnerabilities that they become risk. How you remediate those vulnerabilities. In most organizations, without mentioning names, there's no way that you can close 100% vulnerability. Doesn't exist. Whoever going to tell you, yeah, doesn't exist. I've been giving you, we don't play poker. We want to stop the bad players. We all have the same goal over here. Those vulnerabilities is that you have to understand. If you don't stop them, it's a question of time, okay, when the bad players will be able to find those vulnerabilities and to do a certain damage. Now, talking on my journey, I saw everything from social engineering, phishing, okay, to really people, finance department moving money to North Korea. And I saw people, have the ability to, that duplicate a person even, so a person that was part of onboarding and it was a fake guy completely, that was able to, try to kind of confuse HR, try to confuse, completely fake. It's like synthetic social engineering, which you take some of the true, okay? You find some of the true in social media, about a day, for example, and fake and mix it together, and you create a new person. That's very popular. Yeah. Very security company, not in my portfolio. That at the bridge like that the person was able to pass the interviews, hired, and he only stole the laptop. He was hired. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so I saw everything from everything, and I was what brought me, to bring my passion to security is really when I saw so many weaknesses during my journey. One of them really touched my heart. And that I know we try not to make it personal and professional in business, but when you see innocent people, getting so scam or risking risking their professional, their life. And particularly, I'm talking about this is how I got into my current job and in BetterHelp. But before BetterHelp, I was able to protect payroll companies, and one of them was during, almost a decade ago. And then, we're talking about 2010, 2011, which they used to own 400 hospitals, major hospitals in California, major, like 3,000 patients, 4,000 patients, huge hospitals in Boston, and clinical doctors, which is translated to what we call in cybersecurity PHI, personal health information, or private. Some of the regulation had to call it private, and PII. Some of the PII, personal information, it's can be PHI as well in medical. For example, some of the regulations say if I know ID first and last name, and if I know ID where she lives, and if I know ID cell phone number, that combine the PII requirement. So I can be as ID and fill up all of the security checkup when she's calling Bank of America or she's calling her doctor. And that's considered a violation in HIPAA. HIPAA, it's the law. All the U.S. medical facility and mental facility and everything around medical and mental, Medicare, have to be under the regulation, the HIPAA Act. It's a law. And by the law, there is a set of controls that you have to follow. Today, people follow what's called NIST control, which is built on the HIPAA. How to save password, how to encrypt the information, how to pass the information, what happened in an incident, what happened in a breach. So back to your question, Adi, today every company gonna have a breach. Every company. It's not, that's my take, that's my philosophy. It's super critical, Adi. How do you take care of after the breach? What happened after the breach? What the step that you did with legal, regulation, policy? So CISOs, make sure you have incident response plan. Make sure you have incident response policy. Follow the NIST control for those policies. Dry run those policies. Don't wait for the crunch time. You have at least 48 to 72 hours in a PHI. You need to do disclosure. It's super critical how you taking care of the bridge. If you hide the bridge, you put it underneath the carpet, I do not recommend you to do so. Bridges always find out. They put it, this is the main thing for the bad players to do. They put it on X, they can put it on Meta, they can put it on TikTok, and complaints from the patient or from your member or from your client can cause you huge penalties. You don't want to go there. Follow the policies, follow the procedures, create them. They exist. Adi,
What would you,
I told you, every company will have, it's the way you're taking care of it.
what would you say are the differences between working in a health tech company, which is where you work now, BetterHelp and companies before, and working in a company that is more software or let's like information that isn't as flammable, maybe?
That's another good question by you, Adi. There is a difference there between medical mental software company and a software company. So I had the chance to work for a data analytics company before I moved to BetterHelp. And I can tell you this is a classic cool software company. Okay, that information is very flowing. There is access control, of course, there is a security program, and some of the data analytics can have some information that is very sensitive. Depends on the client, of course. However, it's less restrict like the medical and mental. Less policies, procedure than the medical and mental. Okay? Less governance like the medical and mental. Okay? And less, I will say, privacy and legal like medical and mental. Okay? Because if you send a wrong email in medical and mental to a wrong patient, that's a breach, that's a disclosure. Okay, it's completely different. If you send a wrong email in data analytics to a different client, oh, you send apologies, it's a wrong ID, we have fixed ID over here. Okay, that cannot happen in the medical and mental. This is all procedures that need to be happening over here. If I told somebody else by mistake, I send the prescription of the medical that I did need to somebody else, that's a violation of EPA. So we need to follow the procedure. So everything more protected. Obviously, Adi, I can tell you that in BetterHelp, we're not going to much details. We're trying to make it as a software company. But as a CISO and on the cybersecurity program, I do bring the bureaucracy in place. I do bring the framework that will protect me from EPA violation. BetterHelp, I brought to BetterHelp what's called the iTrust certification, which is bringing that philosophy of bureaucracy with the balance, with find my balance, because I don't want to stop the business, right? I don't want to stop the developer to develop, but I wanted to have my member to have the most safe environment. I want their data to be extremely safe. So that's the balance that I'm doing on my day to day between the luxury of freedom that exists in software developer in a software company, or between my cybersecurity program that I'm bringing in for my days of, grow up in enterprise like Symantec, right? Grow up in enterprise. In my past, I used to support a company called Pro Unlimited, right? Which is more of a traditional, old school security. So today's security, the new school, is allowing you to do that merge. But you need to do merging between your software developer in security and your software developer that developing the code.
Wow, that makes me think about another balance that I see all the time in security where, like, on the one hand, you want to educate people, you want to make sure you have a culture that doesn't allow it or doesn't create issues. But on the other hand, you also have to put some sort of controls to make sure people don't make mistakes. And how do you balance that? Like, how do you look at it?
Um, so we balance it between we try to do the do and do not do, and help the developer to have more kind of freedom, but in a process and make the process more agile, right? Sometimes those processes are very slow. For example, the software security review, right? The developer wants to install something, you send it to the cybersecurity team, you send it to IT, they take time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The guy needed it in this afternoon, right? So we try to embed a process that will be more flexible, but will keep the control that need to be kept, right? They will keep the review, will keep the ability to give them the freedom with the right response. And also, this is between cybersecurity, maybe it's going to answer your next question, but between cybersecurity and the developer, it's a partnership. It's not even a partnership. It's a one team approach, right? And because the cybersecurity team, and please, CISO, this is part of your job, because cybersecurity team cannot defend and support by themselves the entire organization, or cannot be the only security guy in the front. Every person, and this is the way I run it, every person for years in the company is like a cybersecurity extended to the team. Okay, you build a very good partnership from day one because it's the same canoe, it's the same people that need to fix it. Okay, so you let them be the developer, you let them own the risk together. Okay, there's a philosophy around it. People build, about what I said right now. People build all kind of new way of guidance, right? That will give them the ownership feeling that is helping us to be more secure. And I'm talking the developer. Sharon and his team will not going to be able to do it alone. And that's correct about all of the phishing that exists today, all of the awareness. We become very much close. We're doing security awareness to everybody in the company years now. People do that. There is the compliance every year in each company that I go. That every company, every person once a year go to security awareness. So you give them the tools, you give them the awareness, you make them one of your team members. That's the way to be success. Because in the end of the day, my eyes, by the way, they're not good eyes anymore, but my eyes or my cybersecurity personal eyes cannot be everywhere. The monitoring of the tool that we're using cannot capture everything. And in the end of the day, it's about the developer. And I'm talking about companies that, that offering SaaS or really the latest that companies live on the cloud. Then it's about the developer that's writing that line of code. Okay? So give him the tools. Make them to protect his work. Come to you when it's already, clean and corrected. Not in the end that we have to save it, from the beginning. This is what happened to companies. The cybersecurity team become frontline. It become very, very demanding. That have to be together with the software developer to find the right balance between, I don't want to say bad cap kind of thing, but like between the cap and the freedom, right? And it's a thin line that you have to play with it on a daily basis and be reasonable. And I can tell you that one of some of the weaknesses that exist is in the privacy. Privacy in the internet is something that we need to be very careful for, it, particularly when you're offering information like medical, mental, any kind of bank transaction, your bank online. It's a very sensitive information. By default, privacy become a risk there. So how we protecting it? That becomes something that we, on a daily day working on it. However, Adi, as those channels bring lots of revenue to companies, right? This is the way to track consumer. This is the way to track any kind of new client, right? Everybody going to the website, do the purchasing, do this. So nobody go to the store anymore, right? So this is why it's a huge channel, and we always find that between even your revenue channel that can bring risk, and it's always the risk go up, and the revenue channel, and you have to protect it with your governance, with your control. That's the balance that we need to find.
That's so interesting. Do you think most CISOs see it that way also?
Most CISO probably see it that way, but most of them don't have the power to change it, which is kind of a shame. They need to have the power to change it. It's a big risk. Those channels, sometimes they're very sensitive channels for the business, and nobody really touch them. And it's going all the way to your CEO to make a big change, right? That the change can impact revenue. So it's up the way to the CEO to make a decision. And it happened that the CISO got tools to help them. The whole concept of cybersecurity best practices, or what's called CSF, Most of CISOs know what is CSF, Common Cybersecurity Framework. I think that's the initials. They develop that the CISO not going to be the one throw to choke. Okay? What I mean by that, the risk accountability start moving to the business in CSF. So if Adi wanted to increase the TikTok channel, that can bring $100 million revenue or 150, can bring it. No problem. We're going to review it completely. We're going to put the risk level there. And if one of the risks is not acceptable, Adi will have to accept the risk as the owner for it. Okay, and usually it's a hierarchy C-level. Okay, so the CISO is not going to be alone. Do you understand the concept of CSF? The accountability is moved to the business owner. That's what happened because CISO is starting to get fired every 2-3 years because there was a security breach. They fired them completely. Oh, it's the CISO fault, which in the end of the day, it's developed by somebody. Usually, even it's a consulting fault or nobody's fault. The business wanted, the workflow was not correct, but used to have. This is why the CSF was developed. So the business will be accountable. And that was developed 3 years back. Today, the CSF become next layer. The board of directors become accountable. So this is why the CISO job become very critical.
How do you navigate, on the one hand, first of all, you need the company to be secure, and then you have your team that you need to manage both on the professional, also emotional level. And then you also have management that you have certain requirements you have to stand by, I'll assume, and also like understand what they want from you. How does everything integrate together?
So it's very similar to the question you asked. It's also we need to kind of find the balance, right? So cybersecurity become very demanding. The hours, the weekly hours are crazy, and the job never ends. And the workflow is from here to 5 years, forward. Just to give you some of the workflow. So time management and the way you act, it's super critical, and I'm super critical for the staff as well. I personally recommend my staff to take some time off, to take some vacation time. Some of the education that I'm doing with them, sending them to kind of cybersecurity conference to give them a little bit of, a different environment for kind of change environment from the day-to-day risk that they're managing. Particularly we're managing risk. That's our kind of our life kind of thing, and fixing obviously. And that can be very much of overwhelming. That can be emotionally drained, and that can be putting you to a situation that I can give you an example that you can think that you're the hero of the day, and in the end of the day, you're not the hero of the day. So that's can get to you, right? So I'm trying to kind of to catch it before it's happening, to kind of protect the staff. And we're a small team. Usually, cybersecurity in every organization are small. They're not like the software developer that they kind of completely huge teams. And so we try to divide it. We try to give them some time off, some conferences that they need to, and presenting to the C-level, to the executive, to the peers, to the company-wide, with the ability to give them information that not going to be too much dramatic, or you don't want to create any kind of panic, okay? And you don't want to be acting as a stopper. Cybersecurity team have to be business enablers, which is very difficult to do when you bring controls, okay? So you have to find the right balance in the control himself. What's the right thing to do? What's not the right thing to do? Some of the control, for example, I can give you some of the control, for BetterHelp, I'm talking about, hospitals. Okay, I don't need to be hospitals. I need to software develop mental protection. So that's the idea behind it. You need to be flexible, but in a way that doesn't increase the risk. Sometimes it's difficult, and sometimes you have to go head to head to the CEO.
Do you have a
I,
do you have a story of a time where you had a dilemma and how did you deal with it?
yeah, I have so many dilemmas, that exist in the cybersecurity, right? So I can tell you that me personally, I try to be Um, a guy that I don't know, that easy to work with it, very flexible, that try to enable the business. Revenue is something very critical for me. However, cybersecurity is sometimes it's conflict even with revenue. So I can tell you that if I get a risk, that this risk is very high risk. Okay, so there is categories for risk, right? I think there is even above I can remember extreme or above I and this one. So I can work directly with the risk owner, right? With the guy that created, sit down with him, understand the need, understand the business. And usually it's a business requirement. Can be either on the product side, can be a feature, can be all kind of things that exist in SaaS offering. Okay. First of all, understand the risk and try to remediate the risk by doing small wins, small fixes. Okay, let's give up this one. Let's see if the risk rate is been lower. Try to find the try really to find the place that will be easy for both of us to continue. Okay, and sometimes there's no way. Sometimes there is a conflict, and I can give you an example that there can be a campaign. Okay, in the previous company I worked, there's a campaign that can bring millions of dollars, right? And there is all kind of uh, like testing that give the information. The data is there, but the risk can bring vulnerability, and this vulnerability can transfer to security breach. This security breach can transfer to penalties. Those penalties can cost also money. So those data can come to the CEO, and he have to make a decision, and he have to be accountant. As a CISO, I can recording it, I can put it as a record in any kind of ticketing system, and I'm done with it. That's really what I can do. If the business decide to take it, obviously in the organization, sometimes when it's happening, also traditionally legal is involved. And usually, the C-level slash the CEOs attempt to listen to the chief legal guy more than they listen to the private to the CISO. So the legal is involved, and usually legal always stand and back up the CISO, or either the other way around.
Interesting. What would you say is one of the biggest problems there is in cybersecurity right now, or at least in the mental health cybersecurity, maybe?
Okay, I will start in the first one. Cybersecurity is a general. Okay, so right now we are facing increase in attacking. Uh, every company in the planet, sooner or later, gonna have attacking situation. So there is no way for even professional like me to be able to be cover the entire planet with protection, right? So I do believe that each one of the companies, even a small company, a mid company, please dedicate cybersecurity team. Create a cybersecurity team. Don't let them sit under your CTO. You need a team. You need people to review those vulnerabilities. Companies today have vulnerabilities no matter what. It's a question how you fix those. And unfortunately, right now, in organization, even in a small one, because of the cloud, Adi, it doesn't really matter. With 50 people, small company, you can do a job of 500 people with the cloud. So it doesn't matter if it's enterprise, medium, small, or some startup in the garage. Doesn't really matter. Okay? You need to have dedicated security team to look on vulnerabilities. There is no way that we can defend on vulnerabilities that exist. No way. So each company need to go and do that. Vulnerabilities are increased more and more than you expose to the internet. When you do internet services, all kinds of services, even as a client services or either your company offering services, it's always going to be vulnerable. Buy the tool, invest budget, put the budget there, invent some dollar sign, and correct it. The after fact is huge. There's many cases of companies that went bankruptcy without a correct cybersecurity program. Do not let yourself be in that situation. About the mental and medical, about the mental, because this is something very close to my heart that I'm doing for the past 5 years. BetterHelp always looking for improving our cybersecurity program. We are not perfect. We're never going to be perfect, but we are almost there. And it's consistently working long hours and looking and reviewing every thread. I can tell you that BetterHelp is the #1 commercials in podcast in America. It's been very popular. Yeah, if you open podcast, the Michelle Obama is a very famous one. In a few minutes, there's going to be the guy that, offer you to take therapy. I actually very recommend everybody to take therapy. It's great. It's actually make me to smile every day. And I even myself am BetterHelp member. So it's great. Really recommend you guys to do so. But back to the question, we looking at the threat that exists because we are very popular. So also we become very popular on attacking. I can tell you that BetterHelp getting attacked by same group in Korea, same group in Ukraine, same group. And we're talking about like two, 3 times a week. We get an attack. All kind of attack. The most famous one that most of the people got it, it's denial of service, the DDoS attack. That's what happened right now in and unfortunately in the war, right? Like Iran is attacking, DDoS attack the Trump and Harris campaign, or either because of the conflict in Israel, they're attacking Israel with the DDoS. We can see it a lot. And BetterHelp, because it's very famous, they're trying to do DDoS on BetterHelp as well as a medical and mental facility. We see more and more in the past 2 years increasing from Iran attacking big hospitals in America, like Mass Mutual. Mass was a big General Mass was a big hospital in Boston. Got attacked. We see that getting attacked. It was very kind of famous. So this is the biggest threat that we live today. We need everybody help. All of the organization employees. It's not those 5, 6 people or 20 people in cybersecurity. Everybody, all of your members, all of your FTE, all of your contractors. Don't let the contingent worker to do what they want. Usually, and CISO, review what happened in the planet, review what happened to X, to Twitter. It happened with the consulting. It doesn't happen with the FTE. Protect everybody in the company, everyone that have access to your resource need to have the same discipline as your FTE.
Wow, it's a hard thing to build a culture of, I would assume. Interesting. So we kind of ran out of time, but I'm gonna ask one final question. And before that, I'm gonna say that thank you so much. This has been really, really cool, and I think you bring such an energetic and open energy to this topic, which is so cool. So, what do you think that cybersecurity is gonna look like in the future? In 2 years, in 5, 10 years, what's gonna change?
So in 2 years, cybersecurity gonna start defense or fight or whatever you call it, against very sophisticated, smart AI, very sophisticated, smart AI against the bots. That the bot will be very smart. It's not going to be the Alexa anymore, or not going to be MML that somebody created. It will be a real person kind of thing that have the ability to really to create a damage. So we really need to be able to fight back all of the AI technology. The AI is here. It's not going to go away. It actually will be increased and increased. It's part of our life. And I will demanding those cybersecurity companies, software companies, use more leverage AI to fight back because the bad guys, the bad players are using the AI. So the risk increase, the threat increase. I can tell you for the past year and a half, because of AI, we see increase by 30 to 40% of attacking. Yeah, because of AI. So it will be changed again. It will be super fast, super smart, and we have to keep going, keep develop things that will be able to stop those bad players. We want the internet to be safe, and it's not completely safe environment today. So, and with AI, the bad players using AI, it will continue to be not a safe environment because we see increase in human trafficking, we see increase in all kind of weapons trafficking, in drugs, everything with AI, and all of the tools that they're getting. The bad players using the tools that it's very difficult to really to break in. The encrypted that exists on WhatsApp, for example. They have tools. The Telegram, they have tools to use against, good tools, but using it to do bad things. So those tools need to be more security native, able to help security, help cybersecurity to be able to stop the smart, sophisticated bad players.
Perfect. Do you have anything else you'd like to say to anyone who's listening and is looking into either advancing in security or getting into security?
Yeah, I do. I have a personally note that I want to say to the CISOs. CISOs, I know sometimes it's very difficult to present, talk, and bring either a risk or bad news, but this is part of our job. You need to be vocal. You need to bring those information to the business. Do not sit behind the keyboard or behind the computer. Please let the executive, let your peers know. If you see the vulnerability, it's impact the business, please say, please do, make sure everything is recording, make sure you have ticket for it. And I know sometimes you're all alone, but you're not all alone. Talk, make sure to understand the cybersecurity become part of the chair in the board of directors meaning you're not alone. Stay and do. And for the rest of the company, I wanted to say, each one of you guys, we need help. Each one of you guys, it's an extended for the cybersecurity team. You see, you say, we do.